Time to round up another one of our big stories from the week. City Council has approved a letter of support for an affordable housing community in Spring Branch aimed at getting homeless women and their children off the street. The vote comes despite the objection of several council members, including Brenda Stardig, whose district encompasses the Northwest Houston neighborhood. Many in Spring Branch have been trying to get developers to replace aging apartment complexes with single-family homes to help revitalize the neighborhood. But as neighborhoods are redeveloped, higher rents often push out the low-income residents. So where are low-income residents supposed to live? That's our topic this half hour, and we want to hear from you on our Facebook page. You can also send me a tweet at Sally Mack, Fox 26. In our newsroom again, we have our legal analyst Chris Tritico, news analyst Mustafa Tamiz, and public policy analyst Jackie Bally. All right, this is a really interesting topic because this is happening in places all over the city, not just necessarily Spring Branch.
It's happening all over, and it's a really difficult topic for anyone to address. Now, I want to just say I grew up with Brenda Stardig. I grew up in that neighborhood. I grew up down the street from the apartment complex that she's talking about, and I witnessed firsthand this apartment complex come in and fall apart and get dilapidated, and saw Spring Branch, as a result of this complex and many, many others, go from a high-end neighborhood to a very, very distressed neighborhood. So I know what Brenda's talking about, but that doesn't necessarily make it right. I don't know who, I'm going to start with you, Mustafa. I don't remember who I started with last time. That doesn't necessarily make it right. Where do low-income people live if we don't want them in our neighborhood? You can't live with me. Go live somewhere else.
Well, the same people that are against them moving into their own neighborhood are also against minimum wage. They're also against, health care for people. At some point you have to realize that there are more and more people of low income in our community now, because the divide between the rich and poor has grown so much that you're seeing this stuff happen. And so rather than saying not in our neighborhood, we should try to figure out a way to bring their quality of life up. And so we're not looking to lower the ceiling for anybody, but we have to raise the floor.
To her credit, Brenda Stardig is not saying, I don't want any affordable housing here.
No,
she's saying, let's get rid of these apartments and put single-family dwellings where we can move in people that can live in a lower income single-family dwelling.
That's exactly right. You have 18,000 apartments in this area. 80% of them are in the lower bracket of the market. And so she's saying we need to have redevelopment, we need to improve what we have currently before we start continuing to add on to the 18,000, and that's a large number for that small area. And so instead of adding on to that 18,000, let's improve what we already have. As a district member, that's her job. She's supposed to be in tune with her constituents, listen to what her constituents want, and then take it back to council. Rarely do you see a council vote against the district person.
Right.
And in this particular situation, only Gallegos, Kubosh, and Pennington sided with her. The mayor felt that this kind of project is what is in tune with her homeless mission to get, to lower the number of homeless on the streets. But Brenda is doing what she's supposed to do as a district member.
All right, let's go back to Sally's monitoring our social media.
Hey, we've got a few comments on this one this morning. David says Spring Branch doesn't need any more apartments. Many that are up now need to come down. And then Mary adds, apartments don't bring down neighborhoods. If the complex isn't maintained properly and the tenants are, quote, trashy, that's what brings the apartment complex down. Same goes for houses. If you don't care about where you live, it shows.
Well, that's a good point, Mustafa Tamiz. It's not the fact that the apartment complex is here. It's the fact that it's not maintained, and then it becomes this low-income housing.
And that's what I mean, that we have to manage the quality of life for every resident in our city and in our county. And sometimes we forget that. We just rather maintain our own yard and not worry about others. Look, I think Brenda's doing a great job as a district council member, and I applaud her for standing up for the voters of that district. At the same time, we're going to have to fix this problem. If we're going to get rid of homelessness, we can't create a colony somewhere or an island somewhere where we ship people to. They have to live amongst us, and we have to kind of reincorporate them in our communities. And if it has to be, and it makes sense for a district council member to be against it, but at the same time, the larger council voted for this, and now we need to support the project.
What about that, Jackie Bally? Where were you going to put these people if they can't live in my neighborhood?
Well, I think Brenda, as the district person, she is doing what she's supposed to do and focus on her particular district. Again, 80% of those 18,000 are in the lower market segment. So instead of adding on, let's improve what's at that lower market. You're not saying displace the people or the residents who are living there. You're saying improve the standards. So she's not saying get out of my neighborhood. She's saying let's improve what's currently right here before we continue to add on. And that's a very laudable explanation.
And I think that is a very laudable thing that Brenda's trying to do. But the problem is going from an apartment to a single family dwelling is probably going to cost double for someone whose income is not going to rise.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, if we're gonna tackle bigger issues in our community like homelessness, you're gonna have to place people somewhere. And so in an area where there's a lot of apartment complexes already, seems like it's a better place than trying to put it in an area where there are no apartment complexes. So look, everybody's right on this type of issue. She's right in trying to defend her neighborhood, her district, and the mayor's right in terms of like, we've got to find a place, and this might geographically fit in the city.
You know, Sally, I don't envy Brenda Stardig or anyone that has to address an issue like this that's going to look like she's being unkind to homeless people or lower income people when she's actually not. And so it's a very difficult topic that needs to be addressed by the city citywide, not just in Spring Branch.
Right, and just because the council approved it doesn't mean it's necessarily going forward, so we're going to have to wait and see what happens. Okay, thanks guys, we appreciate it.